I'd like to call to order the regular monthly meeting of Thursday, November 21st, 2013. Roll call, please.
Mr. Banta?
Here.
Mr. Frankel? Mr. Oda? Mr. Klein?
Here.
Mr. Mancinelli?
Here.
Ms. Quackenbush? Here. Mr. Spindell?
Present.
Mrs. Wallace? Here. Mr. Rosenberg?
Here. Please rise and join me in the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Fairlawn Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof distributed to the persons on the approved list, posted in the Board of Education Administrative Office, and sent to the Bergen Record and Community News. The announcement posting for the regular monthly meeting, along with the date, place, and time thereof, was distributed on October 28, 2013. The items to be discussed during the closed work session of November 21st, 2013 may include personnel matters, student matters, legal matters, negotiations, and/or grievances. The results of these discussions will be made public as soon as possible. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for the board workshop on October 12th, 2013, the regular meeting of October 17th, 2013, and the closed session for October 17th, 2013? So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Why don't we switch the audit presentation? All right, we're just gonna switch the audit presentation and the Board of Education comments, just because we have them. Okay, so every year at this time we get the results of our annual audit, and Tim?
As always, we start off with the fact we have no recommendations. That's not always the case. Here, it's pretty much always the case. And there's a good reason for that. We're very experienced, stable staff, very competent, knows what's going on, how to do it. And when new things do come up, as Bruce has always said, reach out to the professionals and find out what to do. And that's what happens. So when new things come up, we're in constant communication, and that way, we're in compliance. The other next thing I wanted to mention, congratulations on a very successful refunding bond sale. There's a number of people that are always monitoring the availability of doing refundings. And we had a window, we took advantage of it, and that's great. Definitely saves debt service dollars. Now we'll go into the famous C1 exhibit. It's all in your pack. As I'm looking, these numbers are getting smaller and smaller.
I like the B better, B schedule.
Yeah,
A
that's
little larger.
But the C is really much more detailed. And it really shows you, what went on in your budget. My line items, we can go through and analyze. I'm not going to go into that. I'm talking broad strokes.
That's what you're talking about.
And as always, the bottom line is where we want to look. We had a budget of revised budget of $87 million. And when you look at C1, I know I go through this every time. The variance column, the balance column. It has some funny numbers in total. It looks like you had like $8.5 million of excess revenue. You didn't. It also looks like you overextended your budget by $1.8 million. You didn't. both of those numbers have to be adjusted by about 7.5 million, which is the flow-through of TPAF FICA reimbursement from the state and TPAF pension reimbursement from the state. So we run that through as revenues and expenditures, but there's no budget. So it creates like an excess revenue that creates an over expenditure. So when you adjust that, if you take the 1.8 million over expenditure, for instance, and you deduct the 7.5 million, that would show that you really had a $5.7 million of unexpended balance in your budget. Now, again, because of GAAP accounting, that's not really the case. You didn't underspend your budget by 5.7 million, because against that 5.7 million is 3.8 million of encumbrances, bills that just haven't been paid, but an encumbrance, since the goods and services have not been rendered by June 30th, are not reflected as expenditures. They're reflected as a reservation of fund balance. So that 5.7 million theoretically goes into fund balance, but then you reserve 3.8 million. You follow that. So what it comes down to, bottom line, is your unexpended balance of your budget is about 1.9 million. And that's only, what, a little over 2% of your budget. So you really can't get much more efficient than that. Because you can't go the other way. You can't overexpend. So, and that money just falls back into surplus. Now, it does look like fund balance, but surplus is a more common terminology. I mean, you do have $11 million of fund balance. Wow, isn't that great? But remember, 3.8 of that is encumbrance. We were able to transfer almost $1.5 million into the capital reserve, bringing that balance up to 2.5 million, which is great. With all your facilities, you know you're going to have capital requirements, and this is in effect pre-funding, some of those improvements, renovations, whatever. You do have some excess surplus from the year before, almost 800, in addition to 1.5 million of designated fund balance. So what you're using is like 2.3 million of surplus in this year's budget, the 13-14.
Which holds down, which really is underwriting taxes, so we're holding the tax rate. That by 2.3 million, we have not gone out for the tax request. That's
the bottom line. And we're on track to continue this cycle, and that definitely speaks to firm financial management, prudent financial management. I've had many discussions, talking 2-3 years down the road. How do you set yourself up to stay on this path? And so far we have. So that's how then the final part of that 11 million is about 2.5 million of unassigned fund balance. That's your true surplus, if you will. That's available for emergencies. That represents 2%, which is our limit. 2% of your budget, plus about 800,000 of extraordinary aid, which I understand, talking to Joanne, we're actually going to appropriate that tonight into the budget. So, really you have 1.6, which is basically the 2%, which is the proper level to have. For your size budget, that's what you need. So that's the whole story on C1. And the bottom line is good job. We're on track, and that's where you want to be. The last thing I just wanted to talk about, which we probably haven't talked about in a while, is maybe just discuss how the audit is done. It's somewhat of a mystery, and sometimes we want even with my clients, it's a mystery. But I'll just quickly describe, kind of in broad strokes again, what we do on the audit. Come in, the very first thing that's done is we read your minutes. Now I can view your minutes. That would be good. And the minutes are really the whole legal basis for basically all of your actions. sources, authorizations, all different kinds of authorizations, the budget transfers, appropriating fund balance, canceling various things, whether receivables or reserves, that, all that financial stuff, all has to run through the minutes. Awarding bids, personnel. Your minutes have extensive personnel, more so than I've normally seen. And all of this is in accordance with statute. That's important to note. Your minutes, there's a lot of statutorily required actions that you have to take. You take them all. So that's otherwise you got to find it. The next thing, or concurrently with that, while I'm reading the minutes, as staff is getting going on extracting financial information. That's surprisingly very quick and easy, because your records are in good shape. We're very familiar with the software. We see it all the time, so we know what reports to ask for, where to look, and recognizing, where it should be. Very rarely, one of us will come in and say to Joanne or John or Bob, what the heck is this? It's very obvious what it is. And that's good. And then by extracting all that financial info, then we can produce this voluminous document. But probably the most important part of the audit is, like I said, the financial is pretty cut and dry. It's there, you extract it, you produce this. The real nuts and bolts of the audit, if you will, is the compliance testing. And that's extremely extensive. Certainly in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. There's certain standards, which would cover the usual testing of disbursements, for instance. We have extensive testing of that. We're looking at all kinds of vouchers and compliance with the bid law. We use PPC, Practitioners Publishing Board, which is a very, very popular practice aid. That gives us our audit program, which we've adapted to each individual client. But that we don't make all this stuff up. This comes from a source. And I could talk for a while on testing of expenditures. It's pretty good. It's a nice system the way they do it. It really is covering a lot more than you think it does. We do extensive work on the payroll. The receipt side of it, the revenue side of it, surprisingly, we hardly do anything. Because there's nothing to do. What are your revenues? State aid. Well, okay. We got a certification from the state that that's what you get, and there it is. Taxes. We have a certification. This is what you're owed in taxes. There it is. So about the only thing that we really probably get into is with tuition. We will examine tuition billings and receipts, etc. Then we get into all the statutory testing. That first part would be like any audit, whether it was General Motors or Federal and Board of Ed. But with the statute, that's where really you get into the AMR, that Auditor's Management Report, that little small report in addition to this. And that's where really the state is asking us to look at particular items, things like bids, which that's pretty obvious. Administrative salaries, where are they charged? Big thing about where that is. We do quite a bit of work on that. The travel regulations, we do a lot on that. Maintenance expenses. You have two different maintenance accounts, 261, 262. One is for required maintenance of school facilities, and the other is for more really custodial work. I'm sorry, Joanne, that's an interesting thing. There is a law which just last year we finally got to the 10-year from the law. It states over a 10-year period you're required to extend required maintenance an amount equal to 2% of the replacement value of all your schools. I have no idea what that number is. I don't know who's ever gonna determine that, or who's ever gonna check whether you did expend it, but in our statistical section, J19, we have an accumulation of 10 years, so the number there is there. But who determines or what, the 2% of replacement value is, that one's really a number just thrown out there. But anyway, we do, work on that, making sure that everything that's charged to maintenance expense is allowable. And again, that's something that the staff is well aware of, and it comes down to budgeting, and we have no problems. Transfers, which is the last thing I'm going to mention. There are so many rules covering transfers. If you go over 10%, from, you need county approval. If you move in or out of capital outlay, you need county approval. If you go in or out of administrative categories over 10%, you need county approval. Sometimes appropriating fund balance, you need county approval. So that's an involved thing. We have to examine and really check all the transfers and make sure that we're in compliance, and we are. Incidentally, the appropriation of fund balance tonight does not need county approval because we're appropriating the prior year extraordinary, and that's called an allowable adjustment to the 2% retainage, and therefore you don't need county approval. So you just go ahead and do it. So I can't think of anything else. Anything else that I harass you about that comes to mind?
Where do I begin?
That's the broad categories, and that's why it takes us a while to get through this. So.
Tim, if I have a comment, if just for the put in perspective for people who really don't understand this process, have been around a while. A number of years ago, we were allowed, back quite a few number of years ago, we were allowed to keep 6% of our surplus in fund balance for emergencies in this district. And then a political climate changed, and it went to 4%, very short period of time, and then down to 2%. So it's harder and harder to stay in line with a plan that's made up 8 months prior to your actual indoctrination of the real world of spending and making it. So this is something where we have in place, which I don't know any other district that have. Well, I do know some because they borrowed ours and copied it. But we're one of the few districts that have a living and breathing document where on a daily basis, if we had to, we could tell you financially where we are within, give or take a certain amount of dollars, maybe it's 50,000, 100,000, but we can tell where we are on pretty much a daily basis with an internal document that has been massaged over the years with the help of Tim, and certainly with the help of Joanne and John on top of it as well. Am I right? And very few districts have that capability. So those things, people should know, because when I hear people in the town come up to me and say, you got a big operation, Bruce, how do you stay on top of it? I said, well, I have a lot of people that help me to stay on top of it, but that's one of the reasons financially we can run this district the way we run it, and why other districts have some difficulty, because they don't have that sophistication of that particular number of documents we've created in a partnership. And Tim said it earlier, he referred to it, I'll say it again. We have Board of Ed, administration, we have 2 partners. We have the auditor and the attorney, and they are not seasonal. And I think more people have to understand that as well. They are not seasonal. And I think, if districts understand it, if townspeople, if boards, if everybody, when you have issues, you run them by the 2 professionals prior to making a decision that's uninformed. That's simply ridiculous. So we've been able to do that, and continuity has been wonderful because Tim has been with us for a while, and Paul has been with us for a while, and we've built up that trust and that working relationship with our professionals. So it's really a team effort. There's no one person doing anything here great. It is a team effort by a lot of people, and I just want to point that out to everybody. So,
What do we call that document? Internal audit?
Yes.
That's what we call it. I will point out this year, your internal audit came to the penny to what I had before. You know, and we worked at it, you know, just understanding the process, and,
Right.
you know, little tricks and things you have to recognize.
Right, it's taken us years to develop it, I mean, really, to
Oh, yeah.
where it is today, but we've done a lot of focus on it over the years.
Now, when you mentioned the cap, you know, there's only one more year on the 2% cap,
Yeah.
and we need legislation.
Right.
So, who knows where we're going with that? Well, your outgoing Bergen County business administrator, Dr. Dennis,
Right.
who's now an interim one of my clients, he's suggesting 0. He thinks there's a possibility, there's discussions going around, 0% cap,
Really.
which is absurd.
That's all up and down.
Yeah. So,
Tim, can I ask you one question? Can you just tell us day to day throughout the year, because it's not seasonal, as Bruce just said, what do you do for us?
consult with them. You know, it's like with Joanne, you know, we have a good communication, you know, so periodically, you know, I think, what, you know, there's always something new coming in, which that definitely triggers some discussion and possible meetings. But there's just on the day-to-day operation, like little quirks pop up and say, well, you know, how should I handle it? What do we do? You know, in some cases, like, what's the journal entry?
Right.
You know, and that's what I say, you know, because we take care of it in advance, you know, when I come in and look at the records, you know, I feel like I already know the records. So,
Is that why the audits have come in so well? Because of the,
absolutely.
Further to that, you'll be coming in soon too, to do the ASSA and DRTRS.
Well,
Uh,
maybe if the state ever
If
releases.
the state,
it.
yeah, we haven't, it would normally have been done already at this point, or early in November. Anyway, but that happens at a different time of year. That piece of our audit happens more at this time of year than it does at the regular, in the September,
We may have
summer,
to talk about
September
that, because
timeframe.
it's becoming more and more difficult to get time to do that.
Mhm.
You know, because the audits have just become so more complex. It just takes longer to finish them and longer to get them out of the office. So that I'm not sure we're really going to be continuing doing that ASSA. But the thing is, I think now, I think all my clients are so used to it and what we look at that you don't really need. The only reason we do it would be that if we did find some errors, you know, we could correct them.
Before.
And that way then, you know, it wouldn't show us any errors on the final audit.
Well, now that
But
you're
it-
saying
but
that
it's-
also with the New Jersey
Yeah,
Smart,
it's
there's a
transferring
check
to
and
New Jersey
balance on it
Smart,
almost
so-
happening.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to be.
Coming out with a
on
system.
loading itself.
Application for state school aid,
Thank
it's
you.
our student count, one pays our state aid.
Years ago, that it actually meant something.
They don't fund the formula anyway,
ASSA
so,
used to be, go hand in hand with your aid.
yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't,
And
that's
it
what they
does
use
not
to
anymore.
calculate the rate.
it hasn't for quite a
But they
while.
haven't done it for years, so it's kind of a moot point.
Right.
Frankly, I know some audit firms that don't even look at the ASSA, because it's just such a waste of time. You know, they have the, you know, there's a required, your AMR, there's a 4-page schedule showing, kind of summarizing all the ASSA stuff, and there's columns that show, like, how much did you test, and were there any errors? You know, so I know for a fact that there's firms that just fill that out as if they never look at it. And frankly, I don't blame them, because nobody uses the thing for anything.
Comments from the board?
I found it very interesting, thank you.
Thank you.
Very interesting. I just wanted to say how important it is to have a good working relationship with the auditor. I mean, I work in an accounting firm that audits school board districts, and throughout the entire year, the auditor is the go-to person to head off anything that's gonna happen. They get the advice, and that's what you're here for, between the board attorney and you, two most important people sitting at the table.
Any other comments from the board?
Congratulations to Joanne and all those who helped to make this successful.
Thank you very much.
I'm just curious, you said you matched to the penny, how often did that happen in the district?
Probably the first time in a number of years that it matched to the penny. I mean, it's never far off.
But that's with us, but with any other district.
Well, no
No other
other
district does
district
it
really
like
has
we do
this
it.
document.
You should write a book.
What other districts rely on is the board secretary's report, which, theoretically is okay, but unfortunately, the secretary's report is hard to read, and it doesn't really always show you all the different things that go into it. Usually gets to the end of the year, it comes to the audit, and everybody has their fingers crossed and said, gee, I hope I had surplus, or I hope I had this, or I hope we're not in the red.
Correct is hard to read because of the way the state makes you do it.
Well, it's just such a,
But it's also a monthly document, not a daily document. That's the big difference. Ours is a daily.
And you can't use it as a projecting, to project with, because it's something that you would have to put into the accounting system, which you don't want to play with that. So we're able to do it offline. And it is a document, Bruce created it as BA, and we have worked at it with Tim and our staff to tie it to the board secretary's report as a check and balance, but it's a moving document for us, and it is very unique. I don't share it with anyone else. I don't. And I think that's what makes.
It would take an all-day seminar to teach you how to use it. So.
Yeah, we could maybe make money on it.
Yeah, you can sell.
But I can imagine that Cindy working at, can I speak? I didn't ask for that. I can just imagine that Cindy working for an auditor, I would imagine that you don't see too many audits with no recommendations or no findings. But I would also challenge you to find a district that has a business administrator in place for 24 years, a superintendent who's a former business administrator, a board who's been very consistent and stable throughout all of this, a relationship with our professionals as congenial and and we all trust each other. And we don't have that gotcha mentality. So we feel less afraid, everyone's more approachable. We're not afraid to ask a question.
And especially with what's going on with superintendents coming and going and
It's so
administrative
transient.
personnel. I mean, it is.
It is.
You just establish a relationship with a superintendent, and by the time the next year's audit
Right.
is, they're gone.
Right. And certainly, most of them can't be looked to for guidance as we do with Bruce, because he has the background, the financial background.
It
So
is
we
unique
have
district.
it is very unique. We also have most of our staff, which I beginning with John DePaola, but Bob Greco, all of the people who have their hands on these records that Tim comes to scrutinize, most of them live in Fairlawn. They have a vested interest in the integrity and the stability of the finances of this district. Most of them are here between 5 and close to 20 years, maybe and some more. There are a couple more than that. We have Lisa managing, as Tim mentioned, how much the personnel plays in scrutinizing our documents, how much you're looking at personnel, the volume of that. She's been here for 19 years. And her staff has been here just as long, just almost as long as her. So, I mean, we have Joyce's and her staff that is special ed, Nancy Gorey, the DRTRS, all of that is audited. We have the same people in place.
DRTRS.
District Report of Transported Resident Students.
Thank you.
I had to think.
We're
See, that's the
alphabet
best one I ever
challenged.
called.
We're alphabet challenged.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Tim.
Good job.
Thanks, Tim.
But the good work.
We will.
On behalf of the board, please, Joanne, definitely say congratulations to your entire staff. Greatly appreciated and recognized. All right, I like to laugh. Comments from the board. General comments from the board, comments. Yes,
We had a free dialogue, I will be reporting in closed session.
thank you. Tom?
I'll be reporting on the results of the Shared Services Committee and good financial news, which Tim already alluded to regarding financing.
Thank you.
Closed session, I'll be reporting on the community school board.
Thank you.
Yeah,
What's closed for that? Are you sure it has to be closed?
No, not really.
No, it's probably
It's a public
open, yeah. So, you can
So
do it now.
we're
or
good
do it
right now?
Yeah, okay. Regarding TICO, this year there are 61 students, and capacity is really only 60, so we're filled to capacity. The before and after care update, there are 200 kids in the AM program and 360 in the PM program. And this year, the total amount of monies collected from the attendees, $750,000. The FLAIR program, the Sycamore, and FLAIR and the Sycamore made a profit of $105,000. So we're making a lot of money from the community school. And that's about it.
And right, and generally, and there's a lot of money that gets, a lot of expenses that get flowed through that money, including our whole copy center, including our whole copy center, and stuff like that, so.
It's offsetting our expenses.
Right. Any other comments from board members? As always, I have a couple. First of all, it's sad news today that Pat Harrington passed away. So keep her and her family in your thoughts. Pat Harrington was a teacher for many years. I don't even know. Do you know how many years? A long time, and a coach for girls volleyball, right?
Yes.
Yeah, girls volleyball. A very winning girls volleyball team in her tenure.
and a very effective school disciplinarian. Don't ask me how I written that.
Joe Sapienza died.
Oh, yeah.
And Joe was a long-time science teacher at Memorial, served the district for a long time.
Pat
Yes.
Harrington was in the district 32 years.
Thank you.
She was also a 2008 Carolina High School Athletic Hall of Fame inductee.
Thank you. Went to a lot of things this week. I've been out every night this week. Monday was our budget meeting, so we were all there for that. Tuesday night was the athletic awards, for the fall athletic awards. What amazed me about the fall athletic awards, and keeps amazing me about the athletic awards, is when they ask the scholar athletes to stand up. And a great percentage of our athletes are scholar athletes. So besides playing their sport, which takes an enormous amount of time, they're also keeping up with their academics and actually excelling at their academics. And that is always great to hear. A lot of good talk about our girls soccer team, which made it really far. And it was the best girls soccer team in Carolina High School history. So, record breaking. So that was Tuesday night. Last night, I was at the 8th grade orientation at the high school. First of all, it was very well attended. But what was great about going in the halls, and they have a great system of a round robin type of thing. Every parent is given a color at the beginning of the night, and they go for 20 minutes, 25, was it 20 minutes, Jim? 12 minutes.
It's about 12 minutes
Oh, it's
of
12
the
minutes.
presentation.
Seemed longer. But they go around the whole, the whole school. They talk to the supervisors of every department, and in the D cafeteria, they have sports representatives, they have music representatives, they have an orchestra playing, music playing, which was absolutely positively wonderful. PTA, Friends of Music, anything, wood shop, and every foods was in there, and the parents really get a feel of what Fairlawn High School is going to bring to their children. And one parent came up to me and said, "You guys are doing such a great job." And you know, I smile on my face when I said that. No parent came up to me and said, "I have a problem," and I was introduced at the beginning of the night. So that was always great. The other thing is, I always have my famous question to high school seniors, especially the seniors, when I see them, the ones that walk them around and stuff. And my famous question is always, what is one thing, if you had, I don't really have the power to change anything by myself, but what is one thing that you would change in the high school if you had that power? And one of the girls was, "I wouldn't change anything. This is just such a great school." And pretty much that was the opinion of the kids that I spoke to, all smiling, all happy, and granted they're picked for that reason, but really the kids had a good time representing their school to the incoming freshman parents. So it was a very, very nice night. Saturday night is the Flace dinner dance, so I'm going to be there on Saturday night. And for anyone that doesn't know, Flace is our special education PTA, basically. And they have a big dinner dance every year. It's at capacity right now, and so I'm looking forward to Saturday night. I think that's all I have. Now I'm going to turn it over to Bruce, who's going to do a report. An exciting report.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Under the superintendent comments, good evening, everybody. First of all, to the public. I see everybody out there I recognize, and thank you, board members. So under the superintendent's comments, I do have quite a few comments to share with you. I want to start off by saying congratulations on behalf of the central office team and the district administration. I'd like to congratulate the three incumbents that were reelected this past election. So congratulations. Nice to have you back on the board. And I'm also going to start off with this report, a little explanation, and go through it quickly. As you know, there are three major reports that are mandated for superintendents to present at a public meeting. And the first one we did back in the end of September, early October, we did the NJ Ask test scores on their NCLB and the HESPA test scores, and how we match up to ourselves, to other districts like us, and obviously districts not like us, in other words, districts in a more wealthy community. That we had to do, which we did. It was extensive. It's on the website. People can see it. I know other districts are looking at it because I had some phone calls, which is always nice. The second report I have to share with you is the change in the direction going from NJ Ask and HESPA eventually. By the way, this year will be the last year, if they keep it this way, where our students, juniors, take the HESPA in order to graduate high school. That's going to become defunct after this year, and then they're going to go to end of course kind of testing, but none of those, for at least now, will hold a student responsible to pass the test in order to graduate. So they're changing that. Down the road it will, I'm sure, but for the next year or two, when they first implement those testings, you will not have to pass them in order to graduate, because we're in a transition, so they're laying off that, I don't know how many years they're going to do that. So for all those kids that are juniors this year, lucky them, they're going to have to take the test in order to graduate. So if you go to the next major report here, it's called Progress Targets. And what we have is the state has set up beginning last year, and they've made using baseline data from New Jersey as from HESPA, going back to, I believe it was 10-11. And from there, they take the percent of proficiency versus the percent of non-proficient, and then they cut that over a 6-year period, a 50% growth or reduction in non-proficiency scores, so they give you targets each year you're going to get to. We're not so sure. I know this is done by statisticians, it's done by economists. They put this together, sold the idea to the state bought it, and I'm not so sure it really tells everything. The wealth factor has been dropped out of comparison when you get into the report cards, which is the third and final major report we have to show. And I don't know how you say a peer group of a DFG GH district to an I district is a peer group. That doesn't make sense to me, but they don't factor that in anymore. So there's going to be some eyes and eyebrows raising when you start looking at that. However, in this case, this is an example, and this is going to start with Fair Lawn High School. And Fair Lawn High School has a projection. Now, unlike NCLB said by 2014 all students will be 100% proficient. We knew from the beginning of that was not going to happen. But the state is now saying that, okay, the new goal, the new target is 90% proficient. So every school has got to shoot for the state target of 90%. In 2015 it goes to 95%. And what they do by that is they say, okay, we're going to look at you on the baseline data, and we're going to see in 2010 and 11, what is your non-proficient percent, and then we're going to gauge targets for you to reach. So we're going to decrease that by 50% over 6 years. And when you look at Fair Lawn High School, you see a bunch of 90s. And the reason why is because our baseline data had surpassed the state expectation. And so what they're saying to us now is, Fair Lawn, you have to be at least 90 every year. All right? So if you look at, and that's in language arts literacy and in math, both. So if you look at Fair Lawn, and that has obviously school-wide, your first line, it has similar subgroup breakout like NCLB, and it'll tell you a valid test scores, baseline data, what they took from. And here's what we scored, and here's what. So if we're looking at what we scored compared to the year, which you're going to see next, did we make the 90 in 2012-13, which was the very last test back in the spring of last year. So these are the scores. Here in students with disabilities, they're projecting, you can see here you have a different array. It's 85.5, and the next year we expect to go to 87, 88, and then to 90, 90, even with students with disabilities, they're ratcheting it up. So if you look at math, it's the same thing. Most of the scores in math, according to the full school, and some of the breakout of the subgroups, they have different arrays down here, and you'll see that in the student with disabilities, the Hispanic group, etc., based on where they were at the time, they're giving them a little more time to get to 90. However, very challenging. Now, it's all color-coded. When people look at the new report cards, which should come out later in the year, it's color-coded. So you're going to know, if I surpass or if I make the state 90 or better, you're going to see a blue box. That means you made the state goal. If you made your target goal, which might be 85.5 here for this subgroup, these are all 90s, if you made your target goal, you would get a green. So greens and blues are absolutely wonderful complement to any district. If you're on your way and showing a confidence level, I think it was 5 or 8% of growth towards that number, you would get a yellow box. So a yellow box is a good place. It's healthy. It means we're doing the right thing. We didn't make that target. Don't forget, the target is a mathematical computation which is set by some statistician in this whole thing. It's not people dealing with children, all right? But, so yellows are good. Yellows are good. The red box is the box that clearly states you didn't make your target. So it didn't mean you're not doing a good job, district. It means you didn't make your target. What are you going to do to work on this year in order to try to make your target next year? So it's a whole different thought. They don't penalize you like they did under NCLB and label you a district in need of improvement or a failing district. This is all based on growth. So people in a community can say, is my school growing? Are the subgroups, are the children, the Hispanics and the blacks and the Asians, etc., are they all moving? Is the school doing a good job from where hence they started? So having said that, let me show you Fair Lawn High School's chart. Okay, so here's Fair Lawn High School. On the left side, you see all greens. That's all very, very good. And what that means on the left side is they're measuring us as far as our participation in taking the test. Did your school have at least a minimum of 95% participation in taking the state assessment, or better? If it's yes, you get a green, so you can see all our subgroups. All of our kids who took the test were in a grouping of 95% or better. It's more like almost 100% because we monitor it so well. If you look at the scores in language arts literacy over here, look at all of the blues. This is an outstanding, outstanding report. You have one yellow, and what is that? That's your students with disabilities, but they are moving. They are moving. Now, if I didn't show you the tests, the test scores under New Jersey Ask, you might not understand that. But if you recall, our students with disabilities at the high school outscored the DFG factor grouping of the state and the I grouping. So now you can say, all right, I can make a comparison. I better understand that because I know the other testing. Does everybody get that, right? You remember those tests? So looking at this in isolation really doesn't make you feel wonderful, maybe, but when you compare and you look at both reports, which I hold very important, that you see both of them, you get a better feel. And here in our math, again, all students took the test, and look at all the blues. And even down here with our special ed students, we made the target. This is a wonderful, wonderful report. I think we should congratulate a lot of people, all the faculty, the administration, and the students, and the parents for supporting the kids. But this shows where Fair Lawn High School sits academically. But now let's look at a few others. Let me jump around. And I really don't like to show too many individual schools, and I'll show you a couple of both. But we usually show it as a district, but this report comes out by school. So here's Mills. Now, we're one of the very few districts in the first 2 years of this, with the announcement of reward schools and priority schools and focus schools. We had a reward school the first year and a reward school the second year. So Mills was a reward school the first year this came out, all right, and they're still doing well. So if you look at Mills, you can see that in an elementary language art, first of all, everybody took the test and it's accounted for. You can see how good it is here that they made their target here, which is, obviously, if you look at their target was 78.9, they were 85% proficient. The state gave a target. 78.7, they were 88.9, etc. Here, they made the state goal of 90 or better. So that's why Mills is a reward school. If we look at, then I'm going to show you another one on Swansea. If we look at, let me get this one. This is Forest. Now you're going to say, oh, there's a couple of different colors in here. But let's look at Forest. Forest School houses a completely different section of test data because we have a tremendous amount of what? Special ed students on Forest. So if you're looking at this, you will see that under the literacy, they made the coefficient of progress, so it's yellow, which is good. And you also have to look at how close were they. Their target for the total school is 75. They were a little less than 5 points shy. Here, with the students with disabilities, the target was 56. That particular clientele had a 37.6. So we're working. So what do we need to do with Forest School? We're going to put together a corrective action plan, which is mandated by the state, we'll submit it for approval, we'll post it on the website as requested, and then we'll work with those students, hopefully, to move them along. Same school, look at the math program, they made the state goal, okay? And guess what? They're yellow. They're moving along. So you have these dynamics that play, and that's why reports like this, you really have to go back and say, let me look at those other scores, let me put them together, because we're dealing with children. You know, behind every number is a child, and we have to keep that in mind. All right, and that's the way it is throughout all the schools. Now, if you want to see a particular school, I'll be more than happy to show you, but that's how it works. Overall, the district is pretty similar to this throughout.
Bruce, is something like this with the color coding being done for individual classrooms?
No. No, but that's in the evaluation, they're going to get the SGP calculation, which will go to that individual teacher in classroom. So that's a handle on that.
I have a question with regard to special education. I think, unfortunately, I know the answer to this. When eventually the target goal for special education becomes 90%, I'm try to word this effectively. Students who have an IEP that, as a legal document, say, this student is at a 7th grade level, meaning a psychologist has said, effectively, they have the mind, academically, of a 13-year-old. Are they going to get to take a test that's based on that to their academic level, or do students who have been deemed by a doctor still have to take a test that is, for all intents and purposes, 4 grade levels above them, above him or her? And so, are they making any accommodations for that, or?
Well, right, yes. Now we have what is called the APA, Alternative Proficiency Assessment, which is a portfolio kind of assessment on a child that cannot sit and take this type of test. But the downside of that is that we're limited to a certain percentage, like 1%, right? 1% of our population, total population. So you can only give it to the most severe students. So you have that. Now, the state is moving, and we're moving in a direction which we're looking at. In fact, I was here the other night, I had a meeting. I just happened to walk down the hall at 6:30, and one of our teachers right here in the hallway, special ed teacher, and I won't say her name, I know she might be embarrassed, but she was on the computer, so I stopped in. And I asked her, I said, hi, how are you? I said, 6:30, what are you doing? So she said, oh, Mr. Watson, come and look at this. She was reviewed, she's one of a few teachers who volunteered to review the new APA, which is called dynamic mapping. Am I right? Is it dynamic mapping? And so I think she was shocked. She said, have you ever heard of it? I said, of course I have. The study came out, it was drawn up in the University of Kansas, and I started talking about it. She goes, how do you know that? I said, well, I'm superintendent. I just happened to read the article. So she just me sound, I'm so amazed on what you know. And I said, yes. I didn't explain it to her. I just wanted to. But the fact was that she's there, and I complimented her, obviously. And she is typical of the people we've got in this district. And she's working on that, Mr. Klein. So, yes, there is that alternative for the most severe, but limited. I don't understand why they limit us. Why don't they just say, these are the classifications for those students, and how many you have, you can do it.
It just seems terribly unfair to those teachers who, are these teachers going to be assessed upon those students passing and getting to that 9%?
Well, they'll be assessed, not yet. You're going to be eventually going for, yes GPs, but there'll also be, they have time, and they're also looking at growth factors in portfolios rather than an SGP score on a New Jersey. So if they took a New Jersey ask, the answer would be yes, they get the score. If they're doing an APA, which will go to these dynamic maps, they score it very differently. Now,
and also they are looking at growth. So even if you have a special education child that doesn't reach that proficiency level, so on New Jersey ask if it's not 200, as long as that child is showing growth compared to his or her peers who are scoring similarly, then that's still a positive thing for the teacher.
That's this year, though. Isn't that changing in the next year or two?
No, that's what they're moving towards.
That's what they're going to move to. In other words, what they're going to do is for at least the next 3 years, they're banking on that. So we're talking.
Okay, so those teachers don't need to worry about this.
I don't think any of our teachers need to worry at all. We've been saying this over and over again, and the reason why I'm saying that is, we, not me, but we don't need, an SGP score to know if our teacher is worth keeping in his district or not. There's so many other ways of evaluating faculty members and their effectiveness, which we've been doing for years. Now, will it help us take a better look at, comparison to what's going on between Fairlawn and teachers all over the state? Of course, that's new data. And you know me, I like data, so I want to see that data.
Right.
But it's not going to change on how we support, the people, other than saying, hey, look, let's look at this. You scored, an SGP of 52. What does that mean? So we have to sit down and explain that, what it means. I could score, one teacher in this classroom can score at a third grade level a 72. And I could score at 52, and yet my 52 could be much, much better than that 72.
Right, it's all relative.
All relative to the group you're being compared to.
Right.
So as long as we understand that, we're not going to go crazy when we see somebody getting a 52 and somebody getting an 80. I mean, we're going to say, wait, let's look at the
I
data.
understand. I appreciate your answer, thank you.
Okay, good question. Anybody else have any questions on this? Otherwise, I'll move on with the other comments.
Is this available on the website?
No, not yet, it will be. It will. No, wait a minute, hold on.
Just in case you wanted to check out our
Yeah.
particular school that wasn't shown yet,
Right, well, what school is it? What school?
Radford.
Oh, by the way, here's Lindcrest. I'll just show you real quick. If I can get them.
But it will be on the website eventually?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
Here's Lindcrest. Lindcrest was this past year's reward school, so you can see why. Lindcrest, and again, the makeup. Lindcrest does not have a population of students with disabilities large enough to be counted in the score. They have some children with IEPs, but not large enough. So they have a benefit. So, you have to weigh each school and understand the load they carry and the challenges. So, but look how nice they are. They're blue, 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 and one green. That's a phenomenal, let's see. Radburn's
It's okay.
doing,
I can read them.
you can wait?
Yes.
Radburn's doing well.
I'm sure they are.
Radburn's doing very well.
I'm confident.
Right. Okay. Anybody, any other questions?
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, is there a way of letting the politicians know that you're as attentive to the finer details of how a teacher teaches and how students learn, with the political climate as it is? I actually think the gentleman's point is well taken, that not everybody understands that, the test and the student don't always match up so well.
Right. The answer is yes. We've met with politicians. We've met with assembly people. We've had lunches with senators. We've talked to them all. Politicians just think differently.
Jeff is actually on a committee with the District 38.
I let him know.
With the District 38 Assemblyman and Senator Gordon, that actually goes into that stuff. They want, our Assemblyman and Senator Gordon actually wanted that give and take. They're the ones who formed this committee to talk to, and he's not on it because he's a Board of Education member. He's on it as a member of the public, so.
And they, believe me, they hear it, like, very frankly. But yes, I will make sure that they hear it again next time.
Yeah, good, because, it seems like taking only 1%, for the alternative test seems rather arbitrary.
We've been arguing that with them for 8-9 years, and we haven't won an argument yet.
So, can you just give us your name for the tape?
Tom Grace.
Thank
Okay, let me go to the rest of my comments. First of all, board members, good news. In your packet, I've given you a copy of the letter from the United States Environmental Protection Agency. And the sentence that says it all is contaminants were not detected in groundwater under Westmoreland School, so we finally did get all the reports. We did send it over to voluminous documents over to our consultant, who emailed us back and said the same thing, good news, you're fine, there is nothing to worry about, which we knew to begin with. And unfortunately, we had a good feeling. This past week, the week we were in past week, was American Education Visitation Week in our schools, and I will tell you that by numbers, as always, the elementary schools were well attended by the parent community. Then it got a little less in middle, and I got almost nothing in the high school. And, that's usually how it happens. And I will say that we had a great turnout in the elementary school overall. Okay. I have a number of very nice things to share with you. I want to just expand a little bit on Michael's comments, Mr. Rosenberg's comments on this week. When we left Monday night from the work session, one of the decisions was we were going to ask Land to provide us with a cost proposal to go forward with, things, and they just haven't gotten that done yet. So as soon as they get that, we will get it to the board. So I just want to make sure we followed up and let you know that we're doing those things. To the Fall Sports Award Dinner on Tuesday, I would like to also comment that when Michael talked about the scholar athletes were measured by a CUME of at least, a GPA of at least for the fall first semester 3.75. So it's not like many schools where you say 2.5. This is 3.75 and the athletes. So I think that's worth noting. Also, as you know, I sit on the executive committee of the NJSIAA now, and at our last meeting, we recognized a number of athletes in schools. They weren't there, but with the press. And Fairlawn was mentioned for our tennis. We came in, as you know, we lost in the final state playoff with Valerie, and she was named as the number 2 tennis player in the entire state of New Jersey for female tennis. So that was exciting to hear that. On December 2nd, Mr. Marcel and I and Mr. Robinson will be attending a luncheon at the NJSIAA honoring our boys volleyball coach. He also coaches girls volleyball. Peter Ziza, who's being honored as and inducted into the NJSIAA Honoring Hall of Fame. So we'll be there alongside. Having one of our coaches inducted is an outstanding honor, so I'm very happy I was there to vote on those things. Wednesday, when we were last night, I would highly recommend for any board member who really wants to get a good first-hand look at our curriculum and what we do, to attend one of these 8th grade orientations. It's phenomenal. There's no other word for it but phenomenal. As Michael said, we have a round-robin type of effect. The kids are wonderful. They volunteer every year. And the things you learn, such as all this year, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, textbooks are online, so we're using internet. We have backup video clips that you can click on and go to for further examples of what you're studying, as we do in some of the other areas. Here's an outstanding a little piece of information. The juniors in the spring, all our juniors who took AP English, 100% passing 3 or better. Remarkable. 100% 3 or better by the juniors who took the AP English.
Do you like to tell us the teacher's name?
Well, we had a number. We had a number of teachers, working and supporting. But Nancy Tuttle at the time was the lead teacher who just retired. And she was always strong, but she turned out AP student year after year after year. So we expect next year, by the way, enrollment has, I think, gone up by about 30% this year. So I think, hopefully we'll have the same outcome. But those are remarkable things. And as Mike said, you really get a chance to go in and see what's going on. All the courses that we offer in sciences, the courses in math, the tracks that we offer as far as pathways, as we call them, in the math, and the transition points. We explain to parents about the transition points for children to move from an honors to an AP or to an honors to accelerated, coming from accelerated to honors, etc. Social studies, on and on and on. I mean, which is phenomenal. World language with the 3 languages we offer. And by the way, we now have our first student last year graduating, and I can't remember the school. I think it's George Washington School. Full ride, studying Chinese, coming out of Fair Lawn High School Chinese program. So that's how effective, those things have been. Another great thing. The Garden State Scholastic Press Association's annual newspaper contest was entered with the Crimson Crier. The Crimson Crier, everybody knows what the Crimson Crier is. Crimson Crier took 2nd place for general excellence. The students competed against approximately 200 schools throughout New Jersey. 2nd place for news writing and executive editor, Melissa Moore, who's now in the process of interviewing me. Okay, here we go. Honorable mention, we won honorable mention for layout and design, 2nd place for opinion writing, staff writer, 2 honorable mentions for editorial writing, and 2 honorable mentions for sports writing as well. So congratulations to those folks and the students, obviously. Website ranks Fairlawn. I don't know if you read this or not, the website. I'm trying to find out what this website kind of had a funny name to it, but I think it's put together by realtors. I think but they rank Fairlawn as the 3rd best town in New Jersey for young families. Sayreville placed 1st, okay, followed by Ridgewood, number 2, and Fairlawn, number 3, Westfield, number 4, Old Bridge, number 5, and the site pointed to the school system as one of the main attractions. And they had a special little blurb on Lindcrest School being a reward school. Very proud of that. Barnabas Health Institute, I don't know how many of you know, we are in partnership with Barnabas Health. Let me get their brochure. They are running a special program with us on strengthening families. It is a free 14-week educational program for parents and grandparents of guardians and their 10 to 14-year-olds. These are parents and families that may be struggling with certain issues. It goes through January 6th. They are meeting one night a week, and dinner is being served, and it is all with Barnabas Health Institute. That's a partnership with Fairlawn Schools. So some of the folks in town have no idea some of these extras we do on the social end for the community, but I wanted to announce that. Many of them we don't announce because it is personal, but that one is one I think people should know that we are. Matter of fact, Natalie and I met with them earlier this year with a new program called Pony Power. And they've actually taken some children that have had some very difficult adjustment problems and have taken them up to the stables, and they work a plan with them on riding and getting to pet horses and talk to the horses, and they reach the kids through this use of Pony Power. And when I got the email, I thought they were kidding me. And so we invited them. Natalie came over and, let's invite them in. And sure, why not? We sat with them. And it was really most rewarding discussion. Very unique program.
They had very successful.
Very successful with the families that went on that. Another thing that Fairlawn Schools has a partnership with, and again, we don't advertise the families, but you should know that that's going on as well. Okay. NorthJersey.com. We all know NorthJersey.com. Usually I don't talk to them. But anyway, we all know NorthJersey.com. It appeared on October 24th. New Jersey students surpassing many countries in ranking of test scores across the world. New Jersey and countries across the board. Matter of fact, what it came down to is, if I recall, they ranked, there were 50 states in the nation, plus 38 countries, and New Jersey ranked 9th. So, and that's in 4th and 8th grade testing on the NAEP, which is the nation's report card, handle, that's the handle for your text, you say my handle. 42nd annual Christian Jones Mathematics Contest called Christian Brothers Academy, or at Christian Brothers Academy in Lincroft. Took place on October 19th. Each year we have a math teacher in the middle school, Heather Sable, who is outstanding as a math teacher and enters that every single year. Well, what's the outcome? Here we go. On October 19th, 2 of our students at TJ, 7th grader Ben Murchak and 8th grader Amy Parsakar, placed 1st and 2nd individually out of approximately 120 students in the competition. How's that? The team and coach Heather Sable took home a trophy for overall 3rd place out of their section of 15 sections. They have 15 schools, and I don't know how many sections there are, but we took 3rd place overall. Another nice thing happening in Fairlawn schools. Former Fairlawn High School graduate, and I'll give you his name. I think we can say this thing. Hold on. This is wonderful. How many know John Nean? You know John Nean, the teacher at the high school?
Yes.
Mr. Marcel, would you agree? John Nean's exceptional? Outstanding? Outstanding teacher, right? John Nean reported that one of the graduates we have, Tal Bass, who is attending Princeton University as a freshman, currently placed out of Princeton's physics requirement because he did so well in the AP Physics C at Fairlawn High School. And I used to say, was it worth having the AP Physics class? That kid and that family, absolutely. Wonderful. Forest School Principal Mike, here's a good one. Forest School Principal Mike Weaver has been chosen to participate in the new National Reading Project sponsored by the way, I don't know if you know Mr. Bookman. Do you know Mr. Bookman? He's dressed up like Bookman. He's been down on a couple of tours. He's represented Fairlawn schools with Scholastic nationwide. And he has been, that's why we get $2,500 on book buying, fake money. It's fake money, but you buy books with it for a forest school. Mike is one of 8 principals across the country has been invited to participate in Scholastic's, quote, Model Independent Reading Schools Project, which is a 2-year commitment. And Mike, we're going to give him a lot of kudos on that one. This is right up his alley. This is Mike. He's a reading fanatic. The kids at school, they read constantly. It's all over. He's done a wonderful job, and he's being recognized. And this brings benefits to the school system in ways of monetary benefits and books and so forth. So good luck to him. I will tell him that I reported. I shared the good news about the EPA letter. Let's see what else I have. If you hold your breath in a minute, that might be it. Yeah, well, these are all my support documents, in case you think I'm making this stuff up. I bring it with me.
That was definitely my fault.
I've been around a long time. That's it. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. You done?
Also.
All right, so we're going to go to the superintendent's agenda, and I'm going to ask for Ms. Quackenbush to read resolution number 1.
Resolution regarding the retirement of Norma Jenitin, effective June 30th, 2014. Whereas Ms. Norma Jenitin, an elementary classroom teacher presently assigned to Westmoreland Elementary School, has indicated desire to retire at the end of the current school year, effective June 30th, 2014. And whereas Ms. Norma Jenitin has throughout the past 26 years confidently provided her young students with the necessary basic fundamental skills and knowledge necessary to succeed in our society. And whereas Ms. Norma Jenitin has discharged her classroom duties effectively, and in doing so has endeared herself to students, parents, and colleagues alike. Therefore, be it resolved that the Fairlawn Board of Education hereby extends sincere appreciation to Ms. Norma Genneton for her many years of faithful and devoted service to the children of our community, and wishes for her a long and joyful retirement. And be it further resolved that the Secretary to the Board of Education be directed to spread this resolution in full upon the minutes, and that the Superintendent of Schools send a copy of this to the employee being so honored.
Can I have a motion to accept resolution number 1?
Second.
Comments from the board?
Of course, I know Norma, and a wonderful person, wonderful teacher. I wish her a lot of happiness and joy in her retirement, and she will be missed by the school district.
Other comments from the board?
My turn? Quick comment. I know Norma as well, and I'll tell you, one of the things I've always liked about Norma is really focused in math. She's one of those every elementary teacher has a forte. They can't have a forte in everything they teach. They have to learn and everything. But Norma was math, and she's done a great job for Westmoreland. And she wasn't always at Westmoreland, but since she's been there, she's really done a great job on the math side. And she's a joy to talk to about math in her classes. And I certainly wish her healthy, long, happy retirement.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I wish, on behalf of the board, we wish Norma Genneton a very happy and healthy retirement. Moving on, item number 2, attendance at conference, convention, workshop. Item number 3, approval of extracurricular trips. Item number 4, appointment of personnel, schedule B and D positions. Item number 5, appointment of personnel, schedule B and D winter coaches. Item number 6, approval of after-school workshops for the 2013-14 school year. 7, bedside home instruction. 8, approval of tuition to special schools providing regular school year special education. Number 9, approval of contractor services, New Jersey Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Number 10, ratify approval of conducting a post-school survey from September 2011 to September 2013. Number 11, acceptance of funds from the NJDOE for conducting a post-school survey. 12, resignation of administrative personnel. Number 13, resignation of certificated personnel. Number 14, appointment of certificated personnel. Number 15, approval of student teachers, interns, practicums, field observation placement. Number 16, approval of certificated day-to-day substitutes and bedside home instruction personnel. Number 17, approval of non-certificated day-to-day substitutes. Number 18, salary adjustment to higher degree status. Number 19, salary adjustment to higher degree status, mid-year qualification. 20, approval of leave of absence without pay child rearing. Number 21, appointment of non-certificated personnel. Number 22, appointment of non-certificated hourly personnel. Number 23, approval of leave of absence without pay. Custodial personnel. 24, change in assignment of custodial personnel. 25, approval of leave of absence without pay, non-certificated personnel. 26, approval of change in assignment of non-certificated personnel. Number 27, approval of non-bargaining personnel. Number 28, approval of change in assignment of non-certificated personnel. Number 29, resignation of community school personnel. Number 30, approval of change in assignment of community school personnel. 31, appointment of community school personnel. 32, approval of social work consultant. 33, approval of required related services for classified students. 34, approval of compensation, Memorial Middle School Title I, NJ Ask Academies, change of code. 35, approval of compensation, Memorial Middle School Title I Math. 36, approval of compensation, kindergarten supplemental services. Number 37, approval of the Richard W. Roth Mass Scholarship. That's it. Right. Can I have a motion to accept items number 2 to 37?
So moved.
Second.
Comments from the board? Ms. Qualkenbush?
On number 5, I just wanted to let the rest of the board know that the athletic committee received the winter coaches appointments prior to them being on the agenda this evening.
Comments from the board?
Yeah, on number 12, she's not retiring at the moment. And you explained us why she was leaving, and it's certainly understandable, but I had a very interesting conversation with her way before I knew she was leaving. And she's a very interesting, dynamic person who has, like, I don't know, a master's in German or some, I wasn't sure if it was a master's, but that's an incredible feat. I mean, it's not a Romance language, German. And she explained to me how she got to that point, and I found it very interesting. And wherever she's going, and I think you told us, they're very lucky to have her. She's a great supervisor, and she'll do well there.
I want to echo, last night, watching her talk with the same passion that she always shows when she's talking about world languages. And I've learned so much about the world language department and the world languages that are taught in Farallon over the last couple of years, and just talking to her and seeing her at events and stuff. It's we're losing a very qualified person, and she'll be missed. Other comments?
I wanted to thank the Roth family for the scholarship.
I want to echo, I got to know Tamar right from the first month she was here, and she is an extraordinarily talented person. I'm very sorry to see her go, but I know her personal circumstances that she's dealing with. And the district that's getting her is getting a superstar. And item 32, welcome Paula. Welcome back. She's done wonderful work for us in the past. It'll be nice to see her again.
Other comments from the board? Seeing none, comments from the public? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Banta?
Yes.
Mrs. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Mancinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Quackenbush?
Yes.
Mr. Stindell?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes. Report of the Business Administrator Board Secretary. Do you have any comments?
Just thank you for all the support all year long that we get from the board. The audit wouldn't be possible, as Tim said, the minutes are what kicks off all of our actions, and if we didn't have their support with the agenda items, we wouldn't be able to even begin to come to the great conclusion that we did. I want to thank all of you and my fellow administrators and the staff of the business office and central office for helping us achieve that goal again. I did have other comments in my update, but I think John Mancinelli wants to cover those.
Okay.
So,
All right.
that's it.
Going to the action items. Item number 1, second reading, adoption of board policy.
I just want to make a comment. There is a policy on for first reading, and it's the policy that authorizes us to be able to record and put on our website this meeting as a video record. We're introducing it at first reading, but we are going to have a policy meeting before the second meeting, and we'll go over the specific language, just a few sentences that change the authorization. And I just wanted to point out.
All right, thank you. All right, item number 2, acceptance of gifts. Item number 3, discards. Item number 4, bills payable payroll. Item number 5, bills payable. Item number 6, transfers, October 2013. 7, board secretary's report, September 2013. 8, board treasurer's report, September 2013. 9, approval of Bergen County Utilities Authority grant, Number 10, approval of addendum 2 to 2013-14 contract with Aramark. 11, synopsis of the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year 2012-13. 12, school use. 13, appropriation of funds. 14, resolution binding the Fairlawn Board of Education to purchase electric generation service to the Alliance for Competitive Energy Services, ACES bid cooperative pricing system. Number 15, resolution binding the Fairlawn Board of Education to purchase natural gas service to the Alliance for Competitive Energy Services, bid cooperative pricing. 16, payment authorization for superintendent's merit pay. 17, board secretary's report, October. 18, board treasurer's report, October. Can I have a motion to accept items number 1 to 18?
So moved.
Comments from the board? Wow, this is wow.
Item number 2, thank you very much to the Westmoreland PTO for their generous gift, and also Fairlawn High School Pledge of 1963. Okay, for enhancing the courtyard, and also, I lost the item, but the grant that came, number 9, I assume that somebody at TJ had to do some work to get that, and so thank you to the teacher, who did the work to get that grant. And again, it is another example of all the grants that our staff, our administration are constantly working to bring into the school district. Wonderful work, thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the board? Wow.
Yeah, I saved this for number 11. I just want to take a moment as superintendent of schools, knowing how important this document is tonight that you reviewed. I would like to congratulate and thank Mrs. Wilson for her leadership as the business administrator who leads the financial direction. I would like to thank her assistant, John DiPaolo, who is by her side and handles a great deal of that information, and her staff, her entire staff. Clearly, that audit is made up of, as I said before, a team approach. The board, thank you for your support and trust in us to run the district the way we run it financially, et cetera, and to make they allow us to make the recommendations. But in all the administration and team, everybody that cooperates really winds up. The yeoman's work is done here in this building with Lisa and Dr. Joyce Lee and Natalie Lacatina and the business officer I just mentioned, Joanne and John and myself. And it's a great team. I'm very lucky to have that team in this district working with me, especially in today's economic times and also political times that challenge us. So I said Lisa.
Oh, you did say Lisa? Okay, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
He's covering
I
this.
missed it.
He must have made that.
I
said
I
Lisa.
missed it. I'm sorry.
But I just want to go on, and number 11 is a comment to thank everybody. They're very, I'll tell you, you got a group of true professionals. Very lucky to have.
Any other comments from the board? Comments from the public? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Manta?
Yes.
Mrs. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Mancinelli?
Yes.
Quackenbush?
Yes on everything, number 12, abstain on A, D, and E.
Mr. Spindell?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes to everything noted, number 10.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes. Public comments, the time is now open for anyone that wants to make any comment about anything, just please state your name. Seeing none, Old business. Sir.
There was a shared services committee meeting since the last public meeting. A number of small items which are not detailed, of cooperation between the borough and the board were talked about. One of the most important was that we are going to enter into a shared paving contract with the borough of Denton this year, in which we piggyback on their paving contractor contract and get lower prices for the paving materials and work. The other thing I thought should be talked about is we had a conversation about where both the borough and the board is on the solar panel project. As you know, that we're trying to develop a joint project with the borough that is big enough to attract the investment money to Fairlawn. The borough had been out ahead of us, having done all of their audits and developing a plan, and they really did not have enough square footage for an effective solar project. So they came to us through the Shared Services Committee, and we're piggybacking on that effort. We're a little bit behind, but we've just gotten word that we've gotten approval for an audit. We've got 5 bidders to choose from, and we'll do that at a later date. We'll have to pick one of them. The audit of the efficiency of our buildings and grounds is an essential step towards getting a solar panel project designed and proposed. I think we're going to do very well in the audit, but we're going to have to pick a contractor to do it. The cost of which is paid by the BPU.
Yes.
The audit is going to be cost-free to us. So we're going to proceed, I suppose, at another meeting to discuss this and pick a contractor to do the audit. And meanwhile, the borough is continuing to evolve, trying to identify additional spaces that might be considered in a solar panel project. Hopefully, in the end, we will have a large enough project to be competitive, and we'll win an ISEP grant. That's the ultimate goal. So we'll keep on moving forward towards that end.
I have a question for you, Tim.
Yeah.
We're not just looking at roofs in this whole thing. We're looking at parking lots and any other open spaces. Is that correct?
Well, the audit will look at all the work that we've done for energy efficiency in our current infrastructure. The goal is we'll get one contractor to do a design, and he will consider everything.
Okay. Because we talked about that before, about parking lots.
He will consider everything. We've got more parking lots than roofs, and we've got more and better southern exposure than even the facilities that the borough has. Although the Public Works garage might be considered as another area for them. We've got most of the roofs in the parking lots that have good exposure.
Okay.
So that's moving on.
Can I just ask a question?
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Jeff.
Jeff.
No problem. 2 quick questions. In terms of picking the contractor, does that have to go under all the other types of bidding laws and rules that we otherwise follow, or we can just pick the one we like the most?
Yeah, we could.
We were only allowed to solicit the 5 BPU pre-approved
Okay. But we-
They're RFPs, really, and they were due today, and we got all 5 by today. So, and they range significantly in price. And so we are able to, it's just up to us to consider the RFPs and then submit our choice to the BPU.
And they have 14 days to act on it.
And when we say we, because this is a shared services,
No, we're on
No,
our
no,
own.
no, we're on our own for this.
They did it, the borough did theirs already.
and speaking of which, the piece of land that we talk about that we don't use, can we rent that out for solar panels? Can we use that? land?
It's certainly, as one of our pieces of property, it certainly can be considered as part of the project.
Gotcha. Excellent.
Just piggybacking on the shared services. I know we spend a lot of money on transportation for special ed. Have we ever considered sharing services with a neighboring community who has kids going to the same school, special ed school?
We do
That's
that all the time.
already taken care of.
We have joint agreements, all the time. All the time.
That wasn't discussed at the shared services committee, but that's true. We share that.
That's fine,
service.
so I was not aware of it.
If you've read Joanne's update and heard Tim comment on a bond refinancing that we did, this is the second bond refinancing that we have done. We did one in 2012, which saved us $500,000. And this one, we had $9,950,000 in bonds refinanced. And we went from a 4.5 interest rate to a 3.21 interest rate. We're gonna save big time on this refinancing. And that is very good news. And we'll probably hear about that in the budget discussions we will have and work sessions going forward. But
It's actually
it's
$1.8
big
million,
news.
$1,000,008
Oh.
that we'll save between now and 2030, so I just would like to say that. I think it's worth
She likes the
talking
big,
about.
she likes the big
$1,000,008.
numbers.
Oh. I didn't hear.
And the last thing, I went to the New Jersey School Board's Delegate Assembly on November 16th. A couple of exciting initiatives that are coming up with school boards. And if you go to the December 3rd Bergen County School Board's meeting that's in Fair Lawn High School, that's a Tuesday night, they will announce, I've asked them to announce what these initiatives are and how they will work. One is a leadership academy for vice presidents and presidents, which they never had specific academies for that. And the other thing is a new outreach program for parents, including a website, and they'll probably be asking us to have a link through our website to their website for the parent awareness and information website that NJSBA is going to put up in a short while. So, we're going to have a pretty interesting meeting on December 3rd.
And I'm hoping that as many board members that are available that night, please come out because it is our house that.
We registered everyone also, so.
Oh, yeah. Right, I got my email.
So,
So you already registered us.
thank you. Thank you for doing that. All right,
That's it.
other old business. Mrs. Wallace.
Yes, I got an email from our school board's representative, and we've already lost 2 dates that he presented to us. So it is very important tonight that we settle on the date of our next retreat. The dates available at this point are February 8th and February 15th. 7 people in attendance in order for it to count. Something else that I heard, that I was told, is that in order to qualify to be a master board, part of what we must do is an analysis of the various contracts we have with our bargaining units. And we've already completed 2 without even knowing that that was a requirement, but the February board meeting will have at the last workshop of the day, we will be working with the secretarial contract. So, 7 or 12?
No, didn't you say 8
7
or
or
15?
15, sorry.
8 or 15.
Didn't you say 8 or 15?
Oh, never mind, 8 or 15. 15. It's not President's Weekend. President's Weekend is what?
I think,
Yeah.
the
Oh,
15th.
President's
Memory break
Weekend
That's
is
not
the
right.
17th.
is the 17th.
When is it? Oh, there is
Well,
Do we want to just go ahead and do it on February 8th?
That
We
would
have
be
to
better
commit
for me.
Now, we've got to
Wow.
have 7
Okay.
people.
People go away.
Have we got
Yeah,
7
the 8th.
people that are going to show up?
Mark just has to be ready for another disaster, probably.
No, please,
Okay.
no.
Is there anybody
Bad
that
enough.
can't? No, is there anybody that can't do it? We've got
We
7.
don't know
Okay.
Have to
Susan.
let you know.
Okay, all right, but, you know, it doesn't count if we don't have 7 people there. I'm gonna tell Al,
Yeah. 8th.
the 8th.
Okay, going to new business. We needed to, okay, come on.
It's sort of like old business, but I was out of the room when you were talking about the athletic awards, and I just wanted to give my apologies because I was doing the other side of your audits at my work. I have 3 more districts to go, so that's why I couldn't be there, and I really apologize because I really did want to be there.
We need to set a date for the board reorg, and it has to be done by January 7th. I don't think we want to do it January 2nd, because so the date that I would propose is that Monday, which is January 6th. Is there, anyone have a problem with doing the reorg on January 6th? Okay, so, because we have to do it by the 7th, we'll do it at 7:30. Unless people want to do it on the 2nd. What?
The 1st, yeah.
We're not doing it on the 1st. Actually, I will still be away.
I don't know.
What?
What time?
7:30. All right. New business.
We absolutely need a policy meeting. We got a big backlog.
Okay. You want-
December or January.
Oh, let's do it January. Because December is pretty packed already, and, you know, we could piggyback it if you want with the reorg, actually.
Not a bad idea.
Because the reorg isn't that long.
You like that? Does that seem to,
Yeah, we're out anyway.
all right. The policy meeting will follow the reorg meeting. So whatever time that is.
Right. What?
8:30.
I'm sorry, an
I'm
organization
being
meeting.
semantically. Say I'm just whispering the ball. You know?
Yeah, the 2 lawyers shouldn't sit next to each other. What? What? You're right. Organization. All right, any other new business? Meeting dates, anything? Yes, sir.
Do we have a media relations? Do we have one set?
That's up to,
It's gonna have to be January.
so why don't we wait to see who's
I
on?
mean, I might do it, we'll do it in January.
Why don't we wait to see who's
I'm
on the
not doing it in
committee?
December.
Gotcha.
Oh, yes, I have to let, December 11th, 7 o'clock, is, the two negotiating teams, secretarial custodian, will be having a meeting from 7 to 8, exactly 1 hour.
I need an athletic committee meeting, but I'm waiting for dates from Jim and Corey. And I'd like to get it before the end, I'd like to get the meeting in before the end of the year.
What do you want?
No, I need dates from you.
I can give you them now.
That's fine.
Are you doing that, or
Yeah, are you looking at your smartphone now?
for the day?
What does it tell you?
Well, the first week of December is pretty good for both of us.
Yeah, I don't know if we have dates.
I don't know if that's.
What do we have already for December?
On the 3rd, we got the county.
The county school boards, we got a board workshop on the 5th. And we got
A work session.
a
Work
work
session.
session.
7 to 8:30.
Can we do it before the, can we do it before the board,
Well, it's not on a Thursday.
The board meeting?
no, the
work session.
county
Oh, the
meeting.
count?
The regular board
What time
meeting
is the
on the
county
12th.
meeting?
7?
I thought 6
Oh,
o'clock.
I'm sorry.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
What about before the board meeting on the 12th? Well, no, because we have student dialogue, never mind.
Wasn't that canceled? Wasn't
No,
it?
that was
Oh,
tonight.
this was tonight, all right.
Well, what about,
Well-
what time is our work session? 7?
7 o'clock.
7 to 8:30.
7 to 8:30.
That's what you said, it was going to be some work
Yeah, we
session.
didn't
It was
wanna
gonna be
keep it
7 to
open.
8:30.
Yeah, I have the 2 hours.
Right. You want to do it the week of the 12th? What?
Everything I say has to do with you.
I'm just,
You have an education.
You asked me a question, I answered.
Education meeting, 7 o'clock on the
Is
9th.
December 11th okay with you at 6 o'clock?
No, that's our negotiation.
No, at 7. I'm trying to get something
Oh,
before.
piggyback, I got it.
what day of the week is that?
Okay with me.
A
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It's okay with us.
Okay, I'm gonna try for December 11th at 6 o'clock, if that's possible. You meet, is it okay if we meet here, Jim?
Sure, whatever you want.
I'm inviting 2 members from the Athletic Hall of Fame to discuss the position of a display case in the high school.
All right. Any other new business? Can I have a motion for a 5-minute recess
So moved.
and to go into closed session?
So very moved.
Second.
Are we coming out of closed session?
Definitely, I need that.
We're not coming out of closed session. So,
We're gonna stay here forever.
I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving,
Thank you.
happy Hanukkah.
Joanne.
Sorry.
A vote.
Did we vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Abstain.
Okay. Okay,
Lisa.
here we go.
Don,
Thank you.
I told,